At the end of the month, when the landlord calls and the bills have to be paid, I can't tell you how grateful I am for people who make donations. I don't, send individual, thank yous, but I just want you to all know that I'm deeply grateful. It doesn't go unlooked. It goes right into my heart. And it just makes it easier for me to do these classes. So I just want to thank those of you that do send donations. And, at the end of every month, I send out my spiritual begging bowl. And I ask people to just help out, and people help out, and I appreciate it. And so God bless you and thank you. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask? Well, lately, there are no questions. I mean, it's been 2 or 3 days. Can't get a question out of anybody.
I actually have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
I spent the day in Portland with my best friend's mother, who was in a memory care facility. And in those 3 hours, I had to remind her several times of many things. And her daughter reminded her that her son died 3 years ago. And I thought about our practice and how I need to be reminded all the time about the simplest things that I forget about who I am and what this practice means to me and where the teachings are. I have to remember them over and over again. And I just felt like I'm not that far from her at 87 who needs constant prompting. And I just thought of this practice a lot today.
It really is a matter. Look, if your need is real to have a spiritual life, it will remind you. Sit down every day to come to meditation, to do what you have to do to support the situation. It will remind you. Your need will remind you. If you lose touch with that need, it becomes all forgetfulness. It's just another thing you do, and it's like an adult education class you go to learn French or Spanish or whatever. I mean, that's basically what it is. The hunger inside you will keep you from ever forgetting the things that are really essential in your life. And part of the reason people get dementia and Alzheimer's and all that, understand that need isn't real inside them. So they live in a world that's just a floating world, and they forget. They forget things. They forget sometimes their own names, for God's sake. I mean, I had a friend of mine, he was a good friend of mine, and I'll never forget, he was one of my best clients when I was running my gallery on 13th Street. He bought 70 Tonkas for me. He had a whole, it was really amazing. And he was a Tai Chi teacher. He was a Qi Kong, all of that stuff. One day he calls me up and he said, Stuart, can you help me sell off my collection that I bought from you? And I said, no problem. So I went down to see him. He had a loft somewhere in Midtown and walked in the door, and it was shocking to see him suffering from dementia. Now, I don't know what went on in his everyday life. I don't know why. It might be something from genes. I don't know. But it was shocking for me to see that. Because this was a really powerful guy. He used to give massages, like he would move the bones and muscles of my body to get them realigned. He was a very powerful guy. So I don't know why people get these problems. But you understand, you can ward off these problems by a simple need to have a spiritual life. That hunger inside that doesn't let you forget, and that hunger that doesn't let you forget that you need to fuel your tanks every day. You can't let a day go by without putting Shakti gasoline in your tank. And if you have that hunger, these problems don't manifest. I mean, they might, I don't know, but it certainly is a way of avoiding these kinds of problems. Most people don't have a hunger in life. And they stand up into the age of 50, 60, they have a hunger to make money. You know, money drives them to remember everything they got to do. After, they get older and, understand that there isn't that need anymore to attain anything. And people drift into this floating world of memory forgetfulness and dementia, Alzheimer's, et cetera, et cetera. So you tap your need inside, and you'll never forget about this, how important this class is to you. What you have to do to support to make sure that this class continues. It's not only you, it's all of us. Life has so many diversions and changes that take place, and people that, we know, oh my God, I have a cousin who calls me up now. I haven't seen him in 70 years. I wouldn't recognize him if I saw him on the street, And he calls me up all the time. Oh, I'm in rehab. He said, I got this, I got that. I said, God, Stuart, you must live a wonderful life. He got really caught up in my books I write and what I do. And it became like some kind of extra thrill for his own life, the things that I do, And I'm his cousin, talks about me all the time. And he's a nice guy. I really like him. He calls me, I call, but I haven't seen this guy in 70 years. More. It's ridiculous. But, people live in a world, it's like a floating world. It's like a dreamlike world that they live in. And they forget what really is important. That's one of the dangers of retirement. When you're not retired, you got to go to the job, you got work to do, you constantly have to be in touch with yourself to take care of your responsibilities. Look at my age. This is the way I live the life the way I live, and it's still not enough. I still feel I'm not doing enough. I mean it. So I got a book I need to get published, and I got this and that, and try to putz around in the art world a bit to keep myself going there, commercially. And, it's a need. You have to have a need. But one thing I never forget is my need to be with God and how important these classes are to develop that consciousness in myself. That's why I'm here. I'm here more than anybody else that's here. It's true. How many of you come to as many courses? Some of you come to 2 a day. Marcia, he's not working in the Keys. He's there for 2 classes a day. And, a few other people come, I think it's 7 classes a week. I attend them more than anyone. It's true. I know what works for me, and that's why I do it. And I try not to, sometimes I have to miss a class, but very, very rarely. And I try not to make excuses why I'm not going to be there. And I've learned in my life, when you need something really bad, the whole universe begins to work for you so that you can do it. It works for you. I learned that at a very early age when I met Rudy and I needed to be in his classes. And I learned that. I've been told this story 1,000, I used to work as a waiter at night. And I go into, if I had $5 in my pocket, I needed a job, I would run around New York, going to restaurant to restaurant until somebody said, yeah, you're hired. And they would say, these are the hours you have to work. And when I met Rudy, he had classes on certain days, and I didn't want to miss his classes. I remember I walked into a restaurant, I needed a job. And I met the manager, we started talking, we kind of liked each other, and he said, okay, you're hired. He said, what hours do you want to work? Couldn't believe my ears. It was the universe working for me. You needed to be in Rudy. So I gave him my time. He said, fine, we'll fit you in at that time. It enabled me to attend every one of Rudy's classes. Never happened to me before in my life. And then they put me in a business where, in most business, you got to work 12 hours a day to run them. My business, it was, I don't even know if it was a business, it was like an avocation, and you used to make a lot of money doing it. It was totally staggering. And it allowed me to do everything I needed to do in my life, include traveling to ashrams around the world, in Brazil and Israel, and all over the place, all over Europe. And I still had a business that was generating money so I could do all these things. My need was very real and still very real to serve God more than anything else. And that keeps me from forgetting what I have to do and being responsible to what I do. Good question, Christine, because I think it applies to just about everybody here. Shakur, really went through a horrible year, but he was in every class twice a day. It was staggering. Going through chemotherapy, going every single class twice. I couldn't believe it. And he's completely healed. He's well. Hmm. And Bob Singh, same thing, serious problems, physical things, and there. Depends on your need. If your need is real, then no excuses. You do what you have to do to grow spiritually. And everything else can wait. Family can, I mean it, family, friends, your dates, they don't, I'll be an hour late. Let's do it, 20 minutes later, okay? And people say, fine. I used to have that all the time. People, I used to run an expensive business and I had very wealthy clients. And I would get a phone call, Stuart, I'm interested in this statue. Can I come by at 7 o'clock in the evening? And there was a statue probably worth $20,000, $30,000, And I would say, look, I can't do it at 7 o'clock. I tell them, maybe can you come 8:30? Or maybe 6 o'clock? I have a meditation class between 7 and 8. I never lost a client, ever. Every single person said, not a problem. Can I come tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock? I said, fine. Never lost, nobody bawled me out, got pissed off at me because I wasn't there,
It was interesting because at the end, Anna said, can you stay, Christine? Can you stay? I said, no, I have a meditation class that I have to get back to, but I'll come back. And she goes, oh, you go then. I mean, she was in and out of it, but that moment, she just got it. It was beautiful.
You're doing something for yourself that people know they should do for themselves. Most people never get around. They get around to it in 5 lifetimes down the road. They finally get around to it after they beat their head against the wall and discover that nothing works. Everything leads to the grave. They finally, something spiritual happens. They wake up.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you.
Well, Does anyone else have a question? Eileen, stop thinking and ask the question. Does anyone else have a question?
There, I have a question.
Yes, Ron.
A lot of us have a are worried about financial abundance, and what is the best way to use this meditation creatively to where it's there's not the dread but an excitement about financial abundance.
Well, I can give you a little exercise that would help you, that I do, and I learned from Rudy, and it works, I mean, but you got to keep doing it. And, you just sit in a state of meditation and project the image of, a gold coin on top of your head or something of that nature. And then let this whole, even you can project the image of your own astral body sitting there. And through that astral body, there's a shower of gold coins that will come. And they'll go right through you, and you let them just drop off the ends of your hands. You don't let these coins fall on you. You understand? You let them fall on family, things that you want to support. So that, that money will come. And the money will come to not only support you, it comes to support. How do you think I supported that place in Denton, Texas? My God, when I went there with $30 in my pocket, for God's sake. And Rudy had taught me that exercise. And I used to do that exercise. Money came. I never knew where it was going to come from, but it always came. It always came. And it still comes, I never know where it's going to come from. So you can project an image of your astral being sitting in maybe a lotus position right off the top of your head. And then you can allow these gold coins to flow out of the cosmos through that astral, through your whole chakra system. And you can let your hands drop to your side and let them come down. And to nurture something that is really important, not yourself. Don't do it for you, but for something that really is important. I remember I walked into Rudy, we were going to go to India, right? Flew from Texas to New York to India. I flew from Texas to New York. And I walked into Rudy's gallery, and we're supposed to leave the next day. He said, Stuart, I had no money then. He paid for the trip for me to go. And I walked into his gallery and said, Stuart, I'm not sure we're going to be able to go. I don't have any money. So he said, what? Anyway, I watched him sit down and do that exercise. By the end of the day, he had so much business came that he looked at me and said, we're going. We're going. We're going to India. And we went, we had a great trip, a difficult trip, a very good trip. So what it is a matter of you build up your inner capacity to where you can do things like that. You can attract money. And enough money, you'll never get more than you need, but you will get what you need. And you have the capacity inside to do these things, Money is just energy. And if you open channels in yourself, you attract that energy and it comes. Then you got to be able to spend it wisely. I mean, for me, it has always been and will always be supporting what I do, my meditation practice. That's what it is. when I was.
So is there a specific time of the day that you do that, or it doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter. You know, when I was running that ashram it wasn't an ad, it's, you know, that spiritual center on Fourth Avenue in Manhattan, the expenses were astronomical. And I used to ask people, you know, maybe after the 6th year I was there, they would contribute $75 a month, you know, and, you know, I would say a third of the people did. The rest of them, they had to be the person collecting the money was made crazy chasing them for $75. I finally said, forget about it. It's easier for me to make the money than to chase that kind of stupidity. If this is not worth $75 to them, then they shouldn't be here, you know? Well, anyway, I tell you that it's just a matter of building a system.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you. God bless you all. And as I say over and over again, you know, these classes are important for me. I'm very grateful that every one of you comes and is truly making an effort. It's not easy to do this, and it's truly making an effort to build a spiritual life. And I'm just grateful for that. And it makes me work very hard on myself and very deep inside myself. So thank you, and God bless you. It's changed me. I really am a changed person, for God's sake. And I like it. I like what's becoming me. It keeps changing. All right. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. So beautiful, Stuart. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stuart.